I do. So they did have White Monster back in stock.
Okay.
But I thought to
And
myself,
you thought, no, not today.
I should just go for something different. So welcome to Frozen Bombsicle.
Frozen what?
Bombsicle. That's what it's called. Frozen Bombsicle.
Enjoy.
It's blue. It is C4, another I'm sure quality energy drink,
all natural,
as all of them are. Yes.
Well, I have to confess, I have no idea what a bombsicle tastes like, and I think I'll be quite happy if I go through life never finding out.
No, you know what it tastes like, and I don't know why.
Probably chemicals.
Well, yes. I don't know why I come back to this, because this was also how I was describing White Monster a bit. When you were growing up, did you have the ice cream, but it wasn't ice cream, it was like the popsicle, and it was the red, white, and blue. Now I'm thinking in the US.
Fab lolly, we had them in the UK. Is that the
it was
same
called
thing?
Rocket, I believe.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
And that's what it tastes like. Actually, it actually tastes pretty much exactly like that.
Yikes.
So it's a little bit of both Britain and America wrapped together.
Sounds like
red,
youth
white, blue.
before Ritalin and ADHD was diagnosed.
Oh man. Well, how was your week been going?
It's been crazy fast this week. These weeks seem to blur at the moment with everything going on. We've got loads of big project work getting delivered at the moment, and the rabbit hole of AI continues to plumb new depths.
Have you? Where do I want to start with this? Have you found things have now stabilized in the region for work after the war kicked off? And have you found in the last few weeks it's become less stable again?
I'd like to say I've got a smart comment on that. I don't really. I think I'm involved with a few big long-running projects which have carried on that have been slightly inconvenienced by travel difficulties. But new work has been sort of motoring along. No big things have started, but we're in conversations about lots of big things. So I feel like it's not helped things, but it's not had a huge dent. There's still a desire to keep moving, to keep driving forwards, and we need to deal with the changing political landscape we're in as we navigate that.
No, yeah, I was just curious on my side. I feel like things have coming back to almost normal from November, December timeframe. But now now I feel in the last few weeks, in the news at least, tensions have quote unquote ramped up. However, here I feel like it's just normal life. Not in a bad way. I feel like everybody here is going about normal life like there aren't issues. And I actually feel it's pretty nice living here. My parents seem to call me all the time, very concerned. I'm like, no, I feel incredibly safe here.
Yeah, I think UAE is pretty stable. I think we're lucky to be here. There are other places not too far away which are not that lucky.
Correct. But tell me about, because I wanted to ask about this. I wanted to get into our home office setups, because this has been an ongoing conversation all week on our WhatsApp group. And tell me a little bit about what's going on with your home setup, because you have not just the monitors, but everything. The nice thing about these is they started out just as coffee conversations that Dunbar and I used to catch up on things. And then at some point we were like, we should probably record this. The good conversation. And we said the same thing when we were chatting. We should record this. Yeah, and make sure you speak close into the mic there. Okay. So you have to lean in or
bring it close.
pull the mic back. However it's comfortable for you.
No, so we're good. We're good.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
We figure it out.
So
we started these as a way to just have a rolling conversation. And then we sort of started playing around with things in AI and saying, well, why don't we record it? And it gives us an excuse to learn some things around it, some skills, some software, some hardware stuff. And then we just kept them going. And some crazy people out there listen to them, which is great.
Yeah, it's funny. We've never checked the analytics once. We just you publish them.
You get the odd message now and again, so I know there are people out there. So thank you.
It is weird, because if I go to DDX, which is the local the bigger local conference in UAE for design professionals, I will get a little bit of I listen to the podcast, and I'm always taken aback because I always feel like nobody listens.
It's a celebrity moment.
Yeah, but actually you're like,
we need to do merchandise. When we do season 2, we should do some merchandise. There we go. I want a mug.
We need a whole club, and we need some T-shirts, but we need to figure out what those are. But this is the first time we've had you on. We've known each other for a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But before we get into everything, do you just want to say a little bit about yourself? Because I could introduce you in terms of I'll give you the alley oop here.
Yes.
Not that was not meant to be a pun, but that was great. So we originally met when you were at the Ministry of Investment.
Correct.
Yes, in Saudi, in Riyadh.
Yes.
And we started just having good conversations because what I loved about you, and I don't know how much I've told you about it. I always call you Dr. Ali. I don't know if I say like Ali or
it's
Dr.
whatever.
Ali.
Whatever works. Yeah. I'm not stuck on it.
But where I love this guy is, first off, in his office, every wall was full of printouts of design work.
Okay, cool.
And I'm not blowing smoke here, but you have been the only person in GCC that I feel like has not only a great command of the field of UX, but also like the history of it. And you can go deep on sort of any topic. You can nerd out on things. And I'll give you my last little preface before I pass it over to you. You're also a private pilot, which
cool.
We connected a little bit over that. And I think you are a cigar person as well.
Yes.
And so we connected over that. So
Yes,
there was just a ton of reasons why I love you. I've been trying to get you on the podcast.
Yeah, I've been trying to come here
months.
too, actually. I love this stuff.
But say a little bit about yourself.
I've had quite a weird, weird when you look from the outside, I think, but it never is weird for me because it always seems to naturally connect the one thing to the next. So I started life as an applied physicist in Hull University, if you know where that is. And then ended up in Oxford University doing research in nuclear magnetic resonance, which is the uncool phrase for MRI.
Right.
MRI is the sort of more acceptable version of that. And I was just literally making stuff for these biochemists who couldn't do whatever they needed to do in the biochemistry, but they needed the electronics or physics or computing aspect of things. So because Oxford and any of these kind of universities are always doing cutting edge stuff, almost by definition, whatever you needed to do didn't exist. So you had to make it. And that could be software or hardware or anything else, or physics for that matter, science. So it was a state of mind of making stuff up because that's what you needed to get the job done. So it never freaked me out to invent things. That was it. I don't know if you know, in the old days, when you're buying components for electronics, there's this book called RS Catalog or Farnell Catalog.
Well, you know this?
Yeah.
No, I have no
so
idea.
my boss,
It's
it's just like,
old.
what do they call it?
Does that still exist?
Radio Shack kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Right? But it's a thick book of everything that you needed. And my boss said, here's your lab, workbench and all that. Here's RS Catalog. I'll see you later. And he went off to a different building and just left me to it. That meant that I was just in heaven, frankly. Really? I just make stuff up? Yeah, that's what you do. And that led to me making MRI scanners, for that matter. I mean, literally, amplifiers, gadgets, a DDA. So one experiment was, we needed to measure the calcium going in and out of the heart. And I mean the ion of calcium using fluorimetry. And we need to measure the tension of the heart as well as the volume of the volumetric stress of the heart. Like all these things. And they'll also put that in the magnet of so many Teslas and do the biochemistry, and this is a live beating heart. This is like a complex idea. Okay, yeah, but that's the ask. Design, of course, that was it. That was design.
Well, I was gonna say, how did you go? Because I didn't know that about you. How did you get from that point to making rectangles on a screen?
Right.
Because it seems like that part is really complex and awesome, and then all of a sudden you get to rectangles on a screen.
Yeah, exactly. So like I say, it is weird when you look at it, as you say. How the hell did you do that? But actually, it was a natural progression. The web was invented around that time, and I literally remember the day somebody saying to me, "Come into this lab here. Let me show you this." Pointed at a screen. There was a word with blue line underneath it, and he says, "Look what happens when I click this." Like, wow. And Linux was invented around that time as well, so I got naturally involved in that kind of stuff, and got involved in making websites because it was an obvious thing to do, and then I'm shortcutting a lot now just to get to the point, which is to say, I then was interested in the design of these things, whether they're computers or electronics. So I was working in an MRI company, and I would say to, as a service engineer, I would say to the guy who made the thing, why would you not put an LED here to make my job easier on the field? And he said, well, I didn't think to do that. Well, why didn't you think to do that? I'm the one that's actually stuck in the field having to take apart the amplifier to know whether there is voltage on the rails. Just put an LED on the outside. I don't have to do that now. It seemed such an obvious thing to do me, and it really stuck in my mind why he wouldn't think that way. And I realized that actually there is such a thing as thinking about the user.
That I love that because it ties back. I recently, maybe a year ago, read a book. I think it's called User Friendly. And I want to say it's by Robert Fabricant and somebody else who I cannot remember, and that's horrible. But it starts out with a very similar story talking about the 3 Mile Island meltdown, where the people who had designed the panel had never used it or never like put it in any sort of testing.
Right.
And the people who used it when the meltdown was going on, they were like, actually it was such a simple thing that went wrong.
Yeah.
But because the people who designed it never used it, and the people who used it never talked to the people who designed it, they never thought about this situation happening.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was something incredibly simple, just like you said, where you're like, how would you not think of this?
Yeah.
And it's both of you came to design, and I know you're not necessarily a designer, but I still think of you that way, through building. And we've had this as a theme for a bit. You're a builder. Now I see you're a builder. I am not. I did not come to it from that side. I came to it from the arts. I was doing fine arts, and then when I went to university, somebody was literally, the conversation was like, somebody in my neighborhood who I was friends with was like, my brother goes to this school called Carnegie Mellon. They have this thing called design.
Yeah.
Like design's like art, and you might be able to get a job in that later. So do that. And I was like, okay, no clue. Right. So I show up at CMU, and that was right in the mid 90s. And my dad was a mathematician. So I was like, I want to make him proud. So I went to design, but then I started taking mathematics class. And I did, calculus, and I did proof-based mathematics. And from that, I got involved in computer science. And then I started like having this idea that I loved solving problems, but it wasn't necessarily about building. It was just like, can I solve the problem? And I feel like that's when it goes back to our conversation of builder versus thinker. And like all the stuff that I'm building with AI tools is all just like, can I help myself think through problems in different ways or unique ways, or help me show something I haven't seen before? But one of the things we come back to on this podcast so often, and I'm curious now that you're sitting here, what are you using in the terms of AI tools right now?
Me personally, I use a lot Claude and ChatGPT.
Okay.
And I was skeptic at first, but I thought actually, it's a tool. I'll just use it and see what I get out of it. And I'm not a believer or anything like that. Incidentally, I've been in AI for a long time. The first time I got in touch with it, like 1995. So it's not something that I'm getting or got sort of carried away by the sort of bandwagon thing. I know what it is. I know the different aspects of it. And it's okay. I mean, I will use it as a tool. So specifically on generative AI, I'm using these two. And I tend to now use them to play them off against each other. And so I would come up with the idea, the general idea, and I'd say, okay, I need you to do the legwork for me on this. So it's almost a glorified search tool. That's not fair.
Is that are you doing research or building?
Both, actually, because I I tend to, a lot of my work tend to be conceptualizing ideas and then making them happen. So when I've got this sort of general idea, I need to find out, I research the different aspects of it, but then I test the idea. Like, okay, where is this falling over and so on. So essentially, it's a very conceptual use of the tool rather than writing documents for me or checking documents and stuff for that. Of course, I use all that basic stuff as well. But actually, it's the modeling part that's getting me excited. How do we do the modeling? I won't talk directly about the stuff that I'm doing right now in where I'm working, but you can imagine that whenever you're dealing with large populations where there are social issues at stake, modeling becomes the big job. And social modeling is, I think, the hardest one. And that's actually where I'm getting excited about. Agentic AI, of course, we're using at work as well. So yeah, various aspects of AI.
I could dig further into that, but do you want to take a question or a shot or a comment?
So I think there's something in there around synthetic modeling.
That's where I was going to go. So
yeah, it's interesting. I have to say I sit on the fence regarding how useful it is. I'd be quite curious to hear about your experiences on that. In that I'm not completely trustful that synthetic modeling is as accurate or as useful as we'd like it to be. It's easy. I certainly see that, and it's certainly compelling to use, whether it's AI or whether it's really just machine learning.
Yeah, exactly. It's machine learning mostly. Yeah.
But I'm very nervous about, because I'm not so much around social modeling, but it is sort of social modeling. But things like user testing around interface design is largely where I start to touch on things. But I'm always very nervous about replacing sort of focus groups and real human.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah. I'd love it to be, because as soon as you can flick that switch, then we're off to the races.
Totally.
But
what are the factors that make you nervous or that you don't trust in doing synthetic data or creating digital twins to model out scenarios? And that can be to either one of you, because
I'll start you off, and this is an ironic one, because my biggest blocker in this is that I don't think generative AI is very good, and it drives me crazy. And I'm so deep down this rabbit hole to say that is ridiculous. But everything I build at the moment, I spend like 10 steps backwards to get one step forward, where I unpick.
Constantly checking its work.
or just going, the more I shift towards deterministic stuff. So I'll build something which kind of works stochastically. It'll work through a generative AI, which will build something out there, and it's kind of right, but I want it properly right. So I start to unpick it, and then the more I unpick, the more I replace generative with deterministic.
And you think, where was the time saving then?
Even on the car on the way here, I've got to the point of saying I'm literally at the 99th% complete on my LLM model selector, which has spent 3 days banging my head against this. And on the way here, I'm like, I might rebuild it. I might rebuild it in bit by bit deterministic programmatic chunks, because I don't trust it. Because every time I see something, it's close. There's a great way to test it. Pick a subject you know really well, that you know inside and out. That's your topic of expertise. And go and ask ChatGPT or Claude a hard question on it, and see how satisfied with the answer you are. And typically you'll find it's okay. It'll give you a 6 out of 10. But that 4 out of 10 that's remaining, imagine it's doing that on everything you're touching. The stuff you don't know as well, it's doing that on those as well.
Yeah, it's a great test, actually.
So I hate it. It's rubbish. We should get rid of it.
It's funny. The thing that you don't like is the thing that I like. All right, so the
good enough thing?
Huh?
The good enough aspect?
No, sorry, not that. The deterministic versus probabilistic. Like, my whole thing, and I've been working on this, is like, give me different provocations. Give me something unique.
But you put controls around it, and that's the answer.
I do, but it is give me something wild. So I don't want the same answer every time. And I feel that's the delta between, like, great computer programmers or great software engineers are going to build things that work in a 0 or 1 type of situation. And I'm like, I just want you to help me think. Therefore, being wild and having like a reinforcement learning model, which now I understand better than ever for the book that hopefully you're about to read.
I am started already.
Yeah, on Demis Hassabis.
Oh, it's
that
just
talks
great.
all about the delta in reinforcement learning versus machine learning, and why this has been such a huge step, which I didn't really know as much. I know the machine learning part of it, like writing the rules and everything, what AI has been up until reinforcement learning and up until weights and all of this. But that's what I like, because I want it to help me think in wild ways or in unique ways or in differentiated ways. And I go back to the famous Go game, where it was like the wild move 37 that nobody expected. And when it happened, people were like, does this even make, like, it must be an error, right? It must be a bug. But it wasn't. It was just like a super wild move. And that's what I want.
But that's a really nice example. I mean, that's a really nice example of something we call and we classify as a wild move when it's really not. Go is a defined problem. It is a fully categorized, understood, finite problem. And that wild move is just a lower probability thing. So a lot of what I do is chasing idempotency. So when I want to get the same results twice, if I run the same thing, I want the same result each time. I don't want to get a random result. There's a place, but let's push
I
the
want the random.
But you've got to be able to do both, I think. So I'd be quite interested into how you frame that and how you approach those, because each has its purpose.
Yeah, and as you say, I want it to be my assistant, think with me, but it's never going to think for you, I found.
No.
And that's the bit that I need to bring in every time. And also the sort of sycophantic stuff. It's like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Fine,
great idea.
Can we just get over that? So what I tend to come back to is, like, I need to bring in the ideas into the table. It never comes up with ideas per se.
It's a prompt at best.
So I have to have thought about it. Going back to the cigar, that's where I need to sort of spend my cigars on, coming up with these things. Then I throw it into the pot. Then I start polishing with it. So I use it for polishing, but never the big picture. I've not seen it come up with a big wild thing.
I don't know if what I'm thinking of in my head is that wild. I feel like it's come up with great ideas for me, but generally what I've built and what I use more or less in a lot of the work that I'm doing is what I think of as a provocation builder. A lot of times when I'm brought into a client, it's like, we are having a business challenge. A lot of times the clients who bring us in are in, let's say, a commodity space, right? So right now I'm working with a ton of different banks. Every retail bank is more or less the same.
That's right.
You have some offerings. And if you're in a commodity market, there's only generally two ways to differentiate: price or experience. So people oftentimes will bring me in and say, well, what can we do on the experience side? What's going to help us differentiate? And that's where I've turned to this provocation builder. And I will have to give it the seed idea, right? So if I'm like, here's the bank, here's the region, here's the thing. But I'll give you one thing that, this is slightly morbid, but I had never thought about this. And I was like, okay, you're a retail bank in Saudi. All right, and I gave it some other qualifications of what I'm looking for. And I said, just to help me think through some provocations. One of the things it came back with was that, given the generational nature of Saudi, how, like, you have same generations under one roof, family is extremely connected, community is extremely connected. Coming from the US, everything's super individualistic. So even that I wouldn't have thought about necessarily. But the stat that it talked about was, when the grandfather or father of the family dies, people aren't thinking in generational banking. So the bank loses that family from a customer perspective. And they're like, if you started thinking of retail banking within Saudi in terms of generational banking and not the individual, right? Everything with retail banking right now almost applies to the individual. They do have some family banking things here. But to me,
ChatGPT came up with this?
Claude.
That's impressive.
So the way that I've chained this together, because this was like a prompt that took me, I would say 3 weeks of me writing this, is I had built a bunch of skills over the course of a few months to challenge my thinking, to sort of look at what are wild ideas for this. And then I built an interrogator tool based off 4 different authors that I really, really liked. I gave it a bunch of context material from all these essays or books on AI in the next, what's going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And then I feed that all into a pipeline that goes through research, and then it goes through idea building, and then it goes into concepts, and then it goes into interrogation. And finally, it comes up with the provocation. And I found out now with my API calls, it cost me about $4 to run that entire pipeline at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm not handing that out for free right now.
No.
But yeah, so it wasn't just like I'm asking a question, but it's a pipeline that takes about 20 or 30 minutes to run that goes through all these things. But yeah, to me, that's been amazing. That's just one idea. It's given me a ton of different ideas that I don't think I would have thought of without it.
There's a difference between something you hadn't thought of because you hadn't gone around the world enough and coming up with something new. So, and I think that we're touching on this right now. So you're saying, it gave me a bunch of ideas. These aren't ideas per se. They are things that you hadn't come across. It had. There's a big difference.
But let me
between,
challenge you to say, by saying there is nothing new under the sun.
I agree with that entirely.
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't,
No, in general, I do. I do. But,
Okay.
but we're coming up with concepts here, especially in design, which is actually what Joe was saying just now. It's a concept of banking.
Yep.
The idea itself is, of course, not new. But it came up with a bunch of little points. If you, I know, oh, yeah, that's an interesting one. And that's going to trigger you.
Yes, I agree. And I agree with
the concept...
It's great for triggers. It's
right?
really good for triggers.
So that's what I mean by triggers. And it's now down to you because you didn't go and see that way of displaying the packet of crisps on the shelf. Oh, okay, that's a different one. But it's not fundamentally new to your point. It's only slight, like a variant.
Can I challenge you a bit on this? And I think you're the perfect person to challenge because
Great.
As we started out, it was Dr. Ali. So you went through a whole PhD process.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've always thought about anybody who goes through a PhD is there's like a circle of human knowledge that exists. And the entire point of a PhD is, yes, you add a little extra to that. So
that's right.
When I do hear that like, oh, there's nothing new, I'm thinking, no, that's the entire purpose of people who are in academia, people who do study PhDs, is they get to know something so deeply that they can figure out how do you push the boundaries.
Yeah.
And this came from a friend of mine who works at Pixar, and he was saying Pixar this was 15 years ago, almost only hired PhDs. And I said, like, but why?
Why, yeah.
And he said, because at that point we know a couple things. Number one, you have a desire or you have created something new.
By
novel.
definition, yes.
And the other thing was that at some point, you can say you were the best in the world at whatever this piece of knowledge, even if it was for a minute.
That's right.
You were the best in the world. And he's like, you merge that, you want to create something new and you want to be the best in the world. That's what we want working for us. And I was like, oh, that makes a ton of sense.
It's interesting. I never thought about it that way. But let's just be clear. There are different kinds of PhDs, of course, and different kinds of ideas, different kind of, let's add a piece to the puzzle. So let's say I've got 30 elements and I come up as a PhD with 31th element. That constitutes a PhD. We did not know about that 31th element.
Yeah.
But is it a new idea?
You start getting to very esoteric terms about what does new mean.
Well, because so then you're. Let me pull that apart. Is it a new idea? Are you saying that because it has always existed, but we just didn't know about it? And therefore, it's like like there's nothing novel because everything already exists. This is very philosophical.
Well, I mean, hello, you invited me.
No, this is perfect. I love it.
But so the difference between idea and knowledge, I guess, maybe what we're talking about, what we're crossing here. So the idea of an element has already been invented, and now let's find out all the elements, because we do need to find out all the elements of the universe. And therefore, everybody, we need to get the whole society to sort of be motivated to find out all the different things so that we know a complete set of elements. But somebody came up with hey, I think there's this thing where there's electrons flying around, neutrons and protons and so on. And that's the difference I'm thinking about. There's not many new ideas, to Dunbar's point.
Some of its applications or application and context, and those constantly change. So putting combinations of things together in a context which is constantly shifting results in novel results. I think we get hung up on the idea of we've got to create something new. But then you look at anybody who's creating anything, and largely what they're doing is taking things that already exist and are well known,
Lego, that's
putting
right,
them together in different ways, and then taking a couple of steps beyond and to get something which is not obvious. So I do that for a few months and I show it to you, and you're like, well, I don't see, it's not obvious how you've got there, therefore it's new to you.
Right.
So it's,
I mean, okay, let's just out with my PhD was about defining what UX meant. So when I was getting to doing the design work, I asked people, what do you mean by UX? Because I want to do my design well, and apparently this thing called UX is a good thing for it. What is it? And then I got very hand-wavy kind of answers. And so being an engineer, I thought,
that's arts people for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Social stuff. So I thought, okay, I'd become one of those. I'd do a PhD in psychology. So rigorous psychology method, and come up with a specific answer to what UX actually meant. So is it a new idea? Not particularly, I don't think. Is it new knowledge now that we know, because I've got a very clear definition with very succinct, MECE kind of components? That's new knowledge. We did not know that before, as you say. Like at that point, I was the guy. That was by definition. But then it didn't take long for somebody else to say, oh, okay, now we can add these other bits to it.
So another piece of Lego into the
there
box.
you go. And then that is humanity's endeavor. So is it a new idea?
As much as anything is.
As much as anything is. But it's not like some wild...
You didn't
the
plug
wheel.
that out to
I
the
didn't
air
do the
full
wheel.
form to go, there's your idea.
So I'm writing down a few things that now I want to turn this into a framework, right? But I don't know how, because I haven't had a chance to congeal it yet. But it's like within the universe, there's all these things that exist, right? And there's knowledge that we have about these things, and there's unknowns, right? The things that we don't know. And then I don't really know how to define these two things, but there's ideas and there's concepts. And so I was writing down like what exists versus what's the knowledge versus what is the idea versus what's the concept. And then I put in parentheses versus wisdom, because I think that is like knowledge and application of knowledge over time.
Yeah.
Right. And
help me here, and I'm very impatient now because I used to talk to agents more than people. What do you mean by the difference between an idea and a concept? Explain the difference.
I wasn't sure.
I think he's throwing it in there as a feeling that there's difference.
Yeah, I don't take that nonsense from Claude. I'm not taking it from you.
Okay, so here's as I was listening, here's how I think of it: as an idea is a singular element, and a concept is the representation of like ideas in some sort of merged form. I don't really know how to. Yes. I don't really know how to organize it yet, but I'm just trying to present back what I've listened to both of you. And as you've talked, it feels like you used ideas and concepts. Like a concept, as you just said, was like a framework, or there was some sort of system around ideas and knowledge that allowed you to build a concept. So if you take what exists, then you have sort of this. Like all these, I guess, knowledge ideas, and you put that together and you have a concept of it. And then over time, that becomes wisdom. I just made that up. So please feel free to pick it apart.
But I really like your Lego analogy, because you're really making me think about that. So, and the way I think about it is you've got a big box of Lego.
Yeah.
I've got a big box of Lego. Some of the things in my box are the same as in your box.
Yeah.
But not all of them.
That's right.
You have a box of Lego. And I can make things from my box of Lego, and I put them on the table and say, here is my creation, here is my idea or my concept, if you like, that I put together. You can take that and you can then build on top of it, or you can take it apart and build things from your box of Lego and come up with something very different.
Yes.
And these little bits, these little ideas, I didn't make them up. I made up the combination.
Yeah.
There's novelty in that combination, and there's novelty in that combination that you can use as a springboard to do something better than, worse than.
And as soon as you said that, the novelty in the combination, actually, I realized that actually what we're sort of teetering on is you can put one, in your mind, and you got these two pieces of Lego, we're playing with it, and we've all done this, and we put the pieces, and then suddenly we put it in a kind of a wrong way, a mutation, if you like, and you go, oh, didn't think about that. Well, you just did. You just made it up, and that is the new idea. But what I was meaning earlier is that it's not a massively wild new idea.
It might be
It's
one
a-
extra
it's a-
piece.
Yeah.
But that extra piece,
It is new.
yeah.
By definition. We hadn't seen it before. To your point, Joe.
Here's where I love where this is going. And this goes back to one of
No
our...
idea where this is.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm going to tie it back to one of a couple of our themes that have been going on for the last year in this podcast, which is this whole idea that like my job's going to be taken, I'm going to be displaced, all this. And I've said consistently, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
However, I think for a lot of designers, they think of their job as making right angles on a screen.
Yeah.
And I think of the job of a designer as doing what we've just talked about.
That's totally
that
right.
combination
Yes.
of different ideas or concepts to create something novel, that those
Yes.
mutations,
Yes.
right? All of that. That's what I think of as great design work.
Exactly.
And to your point, or you've made this as well, like the whole idea of LLMs is training on what exists. So it knows what exists. So to come up with something novel, as you told me with my idea, that wasn't really novel. It was just something I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense if you're in that context.
Yes.
But the reason why LLMs are attractive, and I'll stick with the Lego metaphor, is that we're used to our box of Lego and we draw from that. And our whole journey through life is about putting more bricks into our box so we can do more interesting things, deeper things. Why LLMs are attractive is because it has a much bigger box of Lego to draw from. So it draws from everybody's box, literally everybody in humanity's box.
That's ever made a Lego piece.
Yes.
It's all there. Yeah.
But it doesn't put them together as well as you do. Not yet, anyway. And I think that's why it looks attractive, because it looks like it's got the depth and breadth that you're used to when you're building, but it only really has the breadth. It doesn't have the depth because it doesn't have a conceptual understanding of how things are put together yet.
Yeah. And interesting, actually, as you said that, it reminded me of an interview I saw of Demis Hassabis. And he was saying that, it's all very well, the LLMs, they're basically giving us the next word.
Because that's all they are.
Because that's all it is, right?
Probability machines.
Right?
Yeah.
But they don't give you what you need to do in order to create a model of the world.
No, not yet.
Well, that's the
Because-
Jan
yeah.
LeCun world model versus...
Well, because the
language model.
world model is not words.
Yeah, it's
Some
concepts,
of
right?
what's in the world is words,
It's semantics. That's
but there is the
reasoning
physics
model.
laws.
Yeah.
They're not in the words per se. I mean, they might be written out, but they're not actually, coded in the words necessarily. The feeling, as you're saying, like the way you feel the gravity.
It's that depth, though. It's that
That's
perception.
that's
and
the point.
interpretation
Yeah.
of depth.
So they've got a lot of breadth here, but okay, specifically on the physicality of things, that's missing.
So let me say something before I forget, because it occurred to me this week. And I was going to mention it. Need to get out. So we've been used to, and for like 20 years or so, we've talked about T-shaped people. We want T-shaped people who've got deep knowledge in one area, but they have a bit of spread. And I think we've now seen the death of T-shaped people. I think we now want, I don't know if this is a term, but we now want M-shaped people who have the ability to go very deep, very quickly on the subject at hand, and then park it and move on to the next. And their breadth is, they need enough breadth to be useful, to be able to apply different areas. But the skill now is about going rapidly deep on the topic at hand through synthetic augmentation, through LLMs, whatever, but then be able to shift focus quickly. So I quite like, I don't know if I'm sure someone else has come up with it. But
I've heard pie-shaped people, but not M. But I agree.
Pie-shaped,
It's the same idea, which is to say, there you go. It's the same basic idea, which is to say, enough breath. We need a bit more sticks, so going deeper.
But they don't stay.
But your point is clear, which is, but transiently, and then when you need it. And I've been able to use these LLMs to get quick 80-20 or 60-40 expertise in something, because it can teach me and give me the relevant bits to the thing that I'm working on very quickly.
Should I tell you the thing that blew me away? I mean, this is me blowing my own trumpet. The thing that blew me away recently was that I started playing with making a computer game, because I love computer games and it gives me lots of different problems to solve. I started wanting to make asteroids for a space game.
I love that game. Yeah.
So obviously, being insane, I start with, well, give me all the NASA data that we've got on asteroids at the moment, different categories of asteroids and how their composition. And I spent about 3 weeks doing this and managed to write a mathematical model which will generate procedurally siblings of S-class asteroids and C-class asteroids in line with this. And I'm like reading papers that have been released this year, PhD papers released this year, to help feed this model and realize I've added about 5% to this. I'm like, I'm just playing with AI. I'm like, but I'm going through this. I've got about a little bit. It's not big, but there's a little bit I've added on top of this with this model that doesn't exist. I'm like, how is that even sane after 3 months of playing with it?
Yeah.
But
you brought up something interesting, and you know who Neil Stephenson is, or
no?
He's an author. Wrote Snow Crash, which was the famous book that coined metaverse.
Oh,
right. Yeah. But one of his books that I love is called.
I do know that.
Yeah,
It's
called ReamD, which is just a play on Read Me, right? Yeah. So it's a book about computer hacking and all this. But one of the things that he talks about is the main character is a builder of games, and they build worlds. And he talks about the way that this person develops the game is like, if you go and scratch dirt, you're going to find the proper geological makeup of dirt. And he's like, we have computer programmers and game designers who just know the geology of things. And it made me think of, I forget where I heard this, but I was talking to somebody who worked in the game industry, and they were like, we had to go to Australia to find this guy who did the computer graphics for clouds, because he was like one of the top 3 people in the world that knows how to model clouds out. And I was like, that is just amazing to me. That like just that level of knowledge, like there's only a few people who can do this, but man, if you're so good at that, and then you see where everything is going with games or with building worlds, it's like,
it's very seductive.
To have that knowledge is just amazing to me. Like, I don't think I've ever gone that deep on something.
And it's all out there. And that's the world. We've moved through this age of data being about since the 70s, about putting access to data, transforming, giving it to anybody with an electronic computer who can access it. We now can access it. And now I do believe we're in the age of transformation, about finally being able to do something with this data at scale. So we can do things like, if you want to model clouds, all that data's out there. You just got to have the desire to go deep enough on it and model it. And that's what I found with asteroids. It's like, it's just maths. It's just maths, and you can test it and you can prove it. What I couldn't have done 10 years ago.
Newtonian physics, they're all what it is.
I'm like both of you are saying these words. I'm like, cool. I like heavy metal. Let me stop you right there.
So you got to play asteroids though. Yeah. It's just the best game.
But you mean the old game with the triangle in the center? Yes. We do have to wrap up in a minute. So I want to ask the last question to you, because you have, this isn't a hidden talent, but this is probably hidden that you don't know. You speak Arabic, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
I'm very curious, when you switch to Arabic, how the concepts of the world around you might change based on the language.
It's an extremely good question. And I had noticed, I'm fluent in both, in the sense that I've lived in both cultures properly. I was born in Baghdad, raised there for my primary school years. And I learned English when I was about 14. Up to that point, I didn't know English. And I've lived in the English world since then, studied and worked in it. And I've worked in the Arabic world after. So I've really had a proper mix. So cool. I feel like, especially working in the Middle East here in the UAE and Saudi Arabia and so on. And I've found that I have understood more of that what you talked about just now. When you switch language. So I went to a friend of mine who's a very, very highly regarded calligrapher in his studio. And there we were talking about his calligraphy stuff. And I have got a little bit of ability in calligraphy. And he was teaching me stuff. And I was thinking, people who are not of this culture don't know what I'm doing. Like conceptually I'm talking about. But I can do calligraphy in English. And that's different.
And that's why I thought about asking you that question, because of the concept, idea, world knowledge type of stuff, where right now every way that we interact with LLMs is all in English, but it makes me think about if you were to interact with, in Chinese or in Arabic.
We're seeing China's come out with LLMs. This is a great place to end it. We talk, and I might be extending that a bit too far to you, but we talk about the AI world and LLMs being English, and it's very much not. We're seeing China start to rapidly catch pace. We have local models here, things like Falcon's AI, that have their own interpretation, and we'll start to see the things that control our world are very culturally grounded and differently culturally grounded.
And so when I listen to a poem in Arabic, I look around me and all these English or non-Arabic people, non-Arabic speaking people, I think, you have no idea what this just happened in this poem, and you're missing out. Even if I was to translate it, it's not going to work. You got to read it or hear it in that. And I have realized this in the last few years, and I feel sorry, if you like, for the people that don't have access to it because they're missing out.
And maybe they do now. Maybe this is a way they can.
Well, no, I also have no access to the Chinese poetry or the Indian poetry. And these are big seams of culture that have been there around for a long while. And neither does the LLMs. Claude doesn't have access to this.
We have to wrap up, but that is a beautiful way to wrap up because I think it leaves it open to, I hope we get you back on this next week, the week after, something, because this was such a great conversation. And
fantastic.
I think I've taken more notes this conversation than I have in any other. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
See you back soon, Dunbar. See you next week.
Yeah.
Later.